The video begins with a chilling declaration, a coded warning from Nostradamus. It suggests that the year 2025 marks not a peaceful closure, but a fiery reckoning. The fire he spoke of was never just physical. It symbolized upheaval, cleansing, and rebirth. As the world edges toward this prophesied moment, signs of transformation surround us. Wildfires spreading across continents, conflicts igniting between nations, and the fire of human ambition consuming everything in its path. According to Nostradamus, this end in fire represents the collapse of an old world order and the awakening of a new one. It is a time when humanity must face its own reflection in the flames, the destruction we have created, and the light that can still emerge from it. Fire destroys, but it also purifies. It strips away illusion to reveal truth. The prophecy hints that 2025 is not the end, but the threshold of transformation, a crucible where civilization will either burn away or be reborn stronger. Humanity now stands on the edge of that transformation, caught between despair and awakening, watching the prophecy come alive. Nostradamus' writings are filled with images of fire, yet few understood that his fire was never just about physical flames. It was a symbol of upheaval, purification, and renewal, the cosmic force that tears down what is decayed so that something new may emerge. In his cryptic quatrains, he described years when the heavens will burn, when cities would be consumed by fire from within and above. These verses were metaphors for a world entering crisis, a time when civilizations, beliefs, and systems would be forced to confront their own fragility. When we look at the world of 2025, it is impossible not to notice the eerie reflections of his words. Unprecedented wildfires scorch lands from the Mediterranean to the Americas, burning not only nature, but symbols of human excess. Wars reignite in regions long thought stable, fueled by ambition and fear, the fire of pride consuming peace. Economies, too, seem to burn from the inside, collapsing under the weight of greed and imbalance. Even the digital world isn't spared. Information spreads like wildfire, igniting division and confusion. These are not isolated events, but layers of the same inferno Nostradamus foresaw, a fire that engulfs the global spirit. It is the convergence of literal and symbolic flames, environmental, political, economic, and spiritual. Yet within this fire lies a hidden promise, rebirth. Fire, in alchemical tradition, is the purifier that removes illusion, leaving only truth. Nostradamus' prophecy, then, is not merely a warning of doom, but a call to awareness. Humanity is being refined in its own flames. The fire that destroys may also illuminate, burning away falsehoods and preparing the ground for a new dawn. What we witness now may be not the end, but the beginning of transformation. In Nostradamus' prophecies, fire was never just an element. It was a metaphor for human ambition, greed, and the relentless hunger for power. He wrote of rulers driven by fire, leaders whose passions and pride would consume not only themselves, but entire nations. This fire is political, emotional, and spiritual, a force that fuels both creation and destruction. In times of scarcity, when resources grow thin and alliances begin to fracture, that inner fire becomes uncontrollable, igniting conflicts that spread like wildfire across the world. As we look at the global stage of 2025, Nostradamus' warnings feel hauntingly alive. Nations burn with rivalry, not always through literal flames, but through wars of ambition, economic domination, and ideological conquest. Political leaders, driven by the fire of ego, stoke fear to maintain control, setting their people against one another. Energy crises intensify as countries fight over oil, gas, and influence, the modern fuel of fire. These conflicts mirror the seer's vision of a world where rulers, blinded by desire, bring destruction upon their own lands. Yet Nostradamus' words also carry a deeper truth. This fire of ambition is both a curse and a catalyst. From the ashes of political chaos, a new balance can emerge.
The fire
purifies even as it devastates. Perhaps he foresaw a time when humanity, scorched by its own greed, would finally recognize the futility of endless power struggles. The fire of rulers is not only their downfall, but the mirror of human nature itself, the reminder that unchecked desire always burns brightest before it collapses into ash. Through this fiery trial, the world may yet rediscover humility, unity, and rebirth. Nostradamus never revealed exact dates in his writings, but those who studied his work understood that his prophecies often followed astrological alignments rather than calendar years. He believed the heavens were the grand clock of destiny, and that the movements of planets and eclipses signaled the turning of great human cycles. In his cryptic verses, he encoded moments of cosmic tension, conjunctions, eclipses, and planetary shifts as markers of profound change. These celestial signs, he suggested, would herald years of upheaval, when the balance between light and darkness would be tested. In 2025, these very patterns return. Astrologers note rare planetary alignments and a sequence of eclipses falling over regions embroiled in conflict and instability, a mirror of Nostradamus's cosmic warnings. Solar and lunar shadows sweep across lands facing war, political division, and natural disasters. To those attuned to ancient wisdom, such coincidences are not random. They are echoes of the prophetic cycle reawakening. Nostradamus hinted that when the sky itself darkens and planets gather in the house of fire, humanity would stand at a threshold between collapse and awakening. This is why the year 2025 feels charged, almost fated. The same celestial forces that shaped past empires now seem to influence the global stage again. The encoded timelines of Nostradamus are not linear predictions, but cycles, moments when history repeats under the same stars. If his vision was correct, the turbulence of this year is not mere chaos, but part of a greater cosmic rhythm. The heavens are moving, the signs are unfolding, and the prophecies inscribed in the sky centuries ago now find their reflection in the world below, reminding us that the fate of Earth and the stars has always been intertwined. Throughout history, prophets and mystics from different lands have spoken of a time when the world would be tested by fire, a force both destructive and divine. Among them, Baba Vanga and Edgar Cayce stand out as two visionaries whose messages echo strikingly with Nostradamus's warning. Though they lived centuries apart and never crossed paths, their prophecies converge on one truth, a coming age of fire that will reshape humanity's destiny. Baba Vanga, the blind Bulgarian mystic, foresaw years when the earth itself would seem to burn. She spoke of raging flames consuming nations, of volcanoes and earthquakes rising from the depths to awaken the planet. To her, this fire was not only physical, it was spiritual retribution, a purging of corruption and deceit. Her visions often merged the elements of nature's fury and human folly, suggesting that mankind's arrogance would trigger nature's wrath, igniting the very world it sought to dominate. Edgar Cayce, known as the sleeping prophet, also described an age when the Earth's core fire would stir. In trance readings, he spoke of shifting continents, volcanic eruptions, and rising seas, cataclysms that would cleanse and rebalance the planet. But like Nostradamus, Cayce saw purpose in destruction. He warned that these disasters were not random punishments, but part of a spiritual renewal, forcing humanity to realign with divine order. When we combine these voices, Nostradamus, Baba Vanga, and Cayce, a unified vision emerges. The age of fire is both an ending and a beginning. The fire of war, greed, and ecological collapse reflects humanity's inner turmoil, while the fire of the earth mirrors our collective consciousness in crisis. Yet, in this crucible of suffering, a new awareness can be born. Fire, after all, is the great transformer. It devours the old to make way for the new. Thus, the message shared by all three seers is clear. The world's burning is not simply a tragedy, it is a rebirth through flame. Out of ash will rise a new humanity, purified by pain, awakened by loss, and ready to reclaim harmony with both nature and the divine. In the ancient language of alchemy, fire was never merely an element. It was the sacred agent of transformation and purification. Alchemists believed that only through fire could base matter be refined into gold, and in the same way, only through struggle could the human soul evolve. When Nostradamus spoke of fire, he was not describing only destruction, he was invoking this timeless principle, that creation is born from the flames of dissolution. Today, as the world faces crisis on every front, political, environmental, and spiritual, it becomes clear that humanity is entering what can only be called a crucible phase. A crucible is where impurities are burned away, leaving only the essence behind. Similarly, society is being forced into a process of purification, where corruption, greed, and falsehood are being exposed by the heat of chaos. This fire tests not only our systems, but our consciousness itself. In this symbolic fire, everything temporary is consumed, and only truth remains. The world's institutions, beliefs, and even individual identities are being reshaped in this furnace of transformation. Yet, within this intense trial lies hope. Fire, though painful, is never aimless. It refines, reveals, and renews. Just as metals must melt before they can be remolded, humanity must endure its own burning to awaken into a higher state of being. Thus, Nostradamus' prophecy of fire may not be a curse, but a cosmic initiation. The flames surrounding us are not only destructive, they are the tools of rebirth. In enduring them, humanity is being remade, stronger, wiser, and more aligned with truth. Fire, the destroyer, is also the divine alchemist, transforming our world into something new. Among Nostradamus' most haunting verses is the mysterious quatrain that speaks of fire on the waters. For centuries, scholars and mystics have debated its meaning. Was it a metaphor for emotional turmoil, a vision of war, or a literal prophecy of oceans aflame?
The fire
In
shall
the context
consume,
of 2025,
ashes
this
the
line
world
feels
shall be
eerily
reborn.
prophetic, as the world witnesses scenes that seem to echo his words with unsettling precision. Across the globe, the phrase "fire on the waters" has become a chilling reality. Ships burning in conflict zones, oil tankers exploding in narrow straits, and ports engulfed in flame all mirror Nostradamus' imagery. Even nature itself seems to reflect this prophecy. Oil spills igniting on the ocean's surface, volcanic eruptions spewing fire into coastal waters, and storms turning seas into apocalyptic mirrors of light and smoke. Each event reminds us that his metaphors may have carried both symbolic and literal truth. Yet, beyond the physical destruction, Nostradamus' fire on the waters holds a deeper spiritual significance. In esoteric traditions, water represents emotion, intuition, and the collective unconscious, while fire symbolizes transformation and divine will. When fire meets water, the result is both violent and cleansing, a clash between emotion and spirit, between chaos and revelation. Thus, this vision may also describe humanity's inner conflict as deep emotional tides meet the burning intensity of awakening consciousness. In 2025, this prophecy unfolds on multiple levels. The physical seas burn, and so do the inner oceans of the human soul. The fire on the waters becomes a reflection of our time, a world caught between destruction and purification, between the death of old systems and the birth of something new rising from the waves. Beyond the veil of doom often associated with his name, Nostradamus was not merely a prophet of destruction, but a healer and seeker of truth. In his time, he studied medicine, astronomy, and the hidden sciences, believing that healing extended far beyond the body. It touched the spirit of humanity itself. When he wrote of fire, it was not only the fire that consumes, but the fire that illuminates. For Nostradamus, fire symbolized awakening, the inner light that emerges when the old and false begin to burn away. In this sense, his prophecies carry a message of transformation through consciousness. The destruction he foresaw was not meant to terrify, but to awaken. The flames consuming our world, wars, collapses, and crises, are also burning away the illusions humanity has long clung to. False leaders, corrupted systems, and blind materialism. As these structures fall, a space opens for something new to rise, a collective awakening, a return to wisdom and spiritual clarity. Fire, in this deeper context, is the divine spark of awareness. It brings light where there was ignorance, forcing humanity to confront its shadow and rediscover its essence. Nostradamus may have understood that great suffering often precedes great revelation. Thus, the fire he predicted for 2025 could be both a trial and a blessing, the pain of transformation leading to the birth of higher consciousness. As old systems crumble in the flames, the human spirit is invited to see beyond fear, to recognize that within every ending lies illumination. Nostradamus's legacy, then, is not just a warning of chaos, but a reminder that even in fire there is light, and that awakening often begins at the edge of destruction. When Nostradamus wrote of fire consuming the world, he did not speak only of destruction, but of what comes after, the quiet rebirth that follows ruin. In every age of collapse, humanity has faced the same elemental truth. The aftermath of fire is renewal. What burns away is never lost. It becomes the foundation for something new. Like the phoenix rising from its ashes, civilization too must die to be reborn. Throughout history, the pattern repeats. After the fall of empires, cities rise anew, often wiser, humbler, and stronger. The burning of Rome gave birth to a more enlightened age. The ashes of war became the soil from which peace treaties and new alliances grew. Fire strips away illusion, exposing what is real and enduring. Nostradamus understood this alchemical principle, that destruction is not the end, but a passage into transformation. In the world of 2025, this theme has never been more relevant. The flames surrounding us, literal and symbolic, are reshaping the landscape of human existence. Economies are collapsing, governments are faltering, and ideologies built on power and greed are crumbling under their own weight. Yet beneath this turmoil lies an invisible process of renewal. New systems of thought, new communities, and new forms of cooperation are beginning to take root, quietly emerging through the smoke of disillusionment. Humanity now faces a profound test of consciousness. We can either cling to the collapsing structures of the past, those built on fear, division, and control, or choose to evolve spiritually and communally. The fire has shown us the fragility of the world we once trusted. It has exposed the illusions of endless growth and dominance, forcing us to question what truly sustains life. If we continue to grasp at what is burning, we too will be consumed by it. But if we release it, we make space for something higher, a rebirth of unity and awareness. This test is not only external, It is deeply personal. The fires of crisis burn within each individual, asking, what must you let go of to be reborn? Old identities, outdated beliefs, and attachments to comfort are being scorched away. In their place arises a new sense of connection to each other, to the earth, and to the greater intelligence that guides existence. This is the essence of spiritual evolution, learning to see beyond separation, to live in harmony rather than in conquest. Nostradamus, though a man of his century, seemed to foresee this inner revolution. His prophecies of fire were as much about the awakening of humanity's soul as about the fall of cities. He hinted that after the flames, the world would not merely rebuild itself, it would reimagine itself, guided by new values born from suffering. Compassion would replace competition, wisdom would take precedence over ambition, and community would become humanity's greatest strength. Thus, the true prophecy is not doom, but transformation. Fire, as terrible as it appears, clears the ground for renewal. The cities that will rise from the ashes of 2025 will not be the same as those that burned. They will be symbols of evolution, not restoration.
And from its ashes the world
Humanity's
shall be
challenge is to
reborn.
ensure that what is rebuilt reflects the lessons of the fire: humility, unity, and balance with the forces of nature and spirit. In the end, the fire is not our enemy. It is the great teacher, the purifier, the catalyst of change. The question Nostradamus leaves us with is timeless. Will we rise from the ashes enlightened or repeat the cycle once more? The choice, as always, belongs to humanity. As the echoes of Nostradamus's words resound through the turbulence of our age, one truth becomes clear. The fire of 2025 is not simply a prophecy of collapse. It is a crossroads between destruction and awakening. The flames that now surround humanity, both literal and symbolic, are testing the very essence of who we are and what we choose to become. For centuries, seers have spoken of endings, yet Nostradamus always hinted at something deeper, that every ending conceals a beginning, and every disaster carries within it the seed of rebirth. The imagery of fire is not only a warning of devastation, but a symbol of purification and renewal. When civilizations burn, when systems crumble, when human arrogance meets the limits of nature, a sacred opportunity emerges. Nostradamus's prophecy invites us to see beyond fear, to understand that the apocalypse he described was not the destruction of the world, but the transformation of its consciousness. Prophecy is not fate, he implies. It is a mirror held up to humanity, showing us what will come to pass if we refuse to change. Fate becomes real only when free will is ignored. In the final analysis, the fire of 2025 may represent the collective reckoning of humanity with its own creations, the wars it has sparked, the ecosystems it has damaged, the greed it has justified. These are the fires we have lit ourselves. Yet, within these flames lies the potential for illumination, the chance to awaken, to rebuild not from ambition, but from awareness. Collapse is only inevitable if we choose blindness. Awakening begins when we dare to see. The path that lies ahead is divided between two directions. One is the path of despair, where fear, hatred, and division rule, where we cling to what is falling apart and call it safety. The other is the path of awakening, where we accept the fire as part of evolution, learning from its lessons and rising with new understanding. Humanity must decide which road it will walk. Nostradamus's warnings were never meant to imprison us in dread, but to awaken courage and consciousness in the face of destiny. History reminds us that every era of collapse has given birth to a greater light. After the Dark Ages came the Renaissance. After great wars came peace and innovation. The flames that seem to destroy may, in truth, be clearing the path for the birth of a new civilization, one not built on domination, but on cooperation, empathy, and spiritual alignment. The end of one world order could mark the awakening of another, a world where humanity remembers its unity with nature, spirit, and each other. Thus, the prophecy of 2025 is both warning and invitation. If we resist transformation, the fire will consume. If we embrace it, the fire will illuminate. Nostradamus leaves us with a timeless choice: to surrender to despair or to rise through awareness. The outcome is not fixed. It is shaped by our collective consciousness, our willingness to change, and our ability to see meaning in chaos. In the glow of the fire, we are offered a glimpse of both endings and beginnings. This is humanity's moment of decision. Will we allow the fire to destroy or let it purify us into something greater? The prophecy is alive, but the future remains unwritten. What happens next depends not on the stars nor on destiny, but on the choices we make as the flames of 2025 burn before us.